Bernie said, I walk alone. He said that all the time. We've heard it 1,000 times in interviews and everything.
I wish I could have a bullshit funeral. Just make an announcement that Bernie Mac dead, but don't be dead for real. I be laying in the coffin. I just want to see the no good motherfuckers who do come to my funeral.
You feel that the beef between Bernie Mac and Steve Harvey was because Steve Harvey was getting a lot of network love during the time and Bernie Mac not so much?
Yeah, and then Bernie started to get it.
Bernie said in the GQ article that when he got Ocean's 11, Steve had reached out to the producers.
Do you remember that Bernie Mac died from complications of pneumonia?
When Steve Harvey spoke at Bernie Mac's funeral in 2008, he broke down in tears and claimed Bernie was the one who carried the king of comedy on his back. But what he didn't tell you is that he was jealous of Bernie's success and tried to steal his movie roles. Now, I have to say allegedly, but this has been confirmed by several people who were around both of them at the time. And that's not even the craziest part. We're now hearing that Steve's wife, Marjorie, might have been involved too. Apparently, she was in his ear, telling him he's funnier and better looking than Bernie, so he deserved those roles more. And when you look at how Marjorie was moving before she became Mrs. Harvey, let's just say it wouldn't be surprising if she was low-key hating on Bernie behind the scenes. Let me give you some context. Back in 2003, Bernie did an interview with GQ magazine and accused Steve of being jealous of him and trying to steal multiple movie roles, including Ocean's 11. According to the GQ article, someone from Steve's team called the Ocean's 11 director Steven Soderbergh and tried to push for Steve to get the part over Bernie. When asked how he felt when he learned about this, Bernie told GQ, "The Hollywood game that we are in, it's a cold game." Bernie then went on to say something very interesting about how celebrities in Hollywood are controlled, and he explained why he didn't want to stoop to that level and retaliate. The sad thing about it is, all of us are doing well, so I don't really see the problem. It didn't bother me because I see the big picture, Bernie said. When they told me about it, what could I do? I'm not gonna sling mud. I'm not a rapper. I tell jokes. I try to make people laugh. I'm not gonna sling mud. Steve and anybody else can say whatever they want to say. Ain't nobody got no control over me. I have the control. And then Bernie also accused Steve of being an egomaniac and said, go back and look at the Kings of Comedy tapes. Whenever he introduced his buddy, Cedric the Entertainer, it was all about himself. So yeah, I knew about it. Did it piss me off? Nah, you can't piss me off. You ain't that good. After this, Bernie realized just how two-faced people can be when they're desperate for fame and success, and he decided to distance himself from Hollywood. There wasn't anything for me out there, Bernie told GQ, and referring to his wife and daughter, he added, I had the best right here at home. And in 2010, 2 years after Bernie passed away from complications of pneumonia, Steve appeared on Conversations with Ed Gordon. And when asked about Bernie accusing him of trying to steal his movie roles, Steve said, I was upset at first because it just wasn't true. Me and Bernie had a lot of good times together. And then this article in GQ came out and put all this vicious stuff in there. So Steve basically tried to make it look like GQ exaggerated the whole situation and took Bernie's words out of context. However, GQ directly quoted Bernie, and Bernie had to approve the interview before it was published. So it seems Steve was just gaslighting the public and trying to convince everyone that his feud with Bernie wasn't that serious. But, according to multiple sources who were there to witness Steve's shady moves, it was that serious. And Steve built his success by sucking up to the Hollywood big shots while throwing his friends under the bus. Corey Holcomb, who used to open for Bernie, said Steve never deserved to be the headliner over Bernie and Cedric, and he only got that privilege because he sucked up to producers.
They used to let Steve Harvey be the headliner of the Kings of Comedy. They used to let Steve Harvey was the headliner because at the time he was having the most, he was the most famous.
Right.
But he was bombing too many nights coming behind DL, Ced, and Bernie. They had to make him the host. But Steve Harvey found a way. Even though he wasn't talented, he still found a way. You need to find a talentless comedian who made it and ask him, what do you have to do to get it? Even though I could tell you, it's either kiss ass or boys. Steve Harvey kissed ass. That's how he got it. Everybody thinks Steve Harvey some stand-up ass man. No, motherfucker, he kissed the old girl who owned TV One. He used to kiss her. That's how he had the radio show out here.
So based on everything we heard from people who were around Steve and Bernie back then, it sounds like Steve was pretending to be Bernie's friend while trying to sabotage his career behind the scenes. Cedric the Entertainer also hinted at this when he was on Club Shay Shay, and he said that if it wasn't for Steve beefing with Bernie, they would have made a Kings of Comedy sequel. However, Steve apparently just couldn't handle seeing how people loved Bernie and how effortless he was on stage. But here's where Marjorie Harvey gets into the picture. Steve first met Marjorie in 1990 at a comedy club in Memphis, Tennessee, where he was performing. Marjorie arrived late with a friend, and Steve claims he stopped the show and told the crowd that was the woman he was going to marry one day.
So we were sitting here, the stage was here, so he's just quiet. He just keeps staring at me, so I'm waiting on him to make me a part of the show so we can get on with the show. So he stayed quiet so long staring at me, now everybody in the club was looking at me. And so he finally realized, okay, I got to say something. He was like, oh, I'm sorry. I don't know who this is, but I'm going to marry her.
But I kid you not, the first word I ever said to her was, I don't know who you are, but I'm going to marry you one day. That's the first thing I said.
But see, Steve was already married at the time to his first wife, Marcia. Now, we can't confirm this, but there were rumors he cheated on Marcia with Marjorie. And the timing lines up because Marcia divorced Steve shortly after he met Marjorie at that comedy club. But here's the thing, Marjorie didn't think Steve was good enough at the time because he was still a struggling stand-up, and she wanted to live that high life. So Marjorie left Steve and went on to date and marry not one, but two kingpins. And both of those men later ended up in prison. Fast forward to 2005, and Steve is now a big star. In 2000, he starred in the Spike Lee directed movie, The Original Kings of Comedy. And most importantly for Marjorie, Steve was no longer struggling financially. So she decided to reach out. They reconnected. And before you knew it, Marjorie convinced Steve to marry her and raise the kids from her two failed marriages as his own. But here's the tea about Marjorie and Bernie Mac. Allegedly, Marjorie thought Bernie was a threat to Steve's career. And she started telling Steve how he deserves to be a movie star, not Bernie. Now, remember what Cat Williams said about comedians who sign a contract and get a light skin? Sounds like Steve is definitely one of the people Kat was alluding to. But Bernie Mac, he never signed for that industry program. Bernie stayed with the same woman, Rhonda, from high school. Met her as a teenager, married her at 19 when he was delivering bread for Wonder Bread and working at UPS just to keep the lights on. And Rhonda didn't leave when Bernie was struggling. That was his person, from the bottom to the top, until the day he died in 2008. No drama, no weird timeline gaps, no cheating rumors. And then you have Steve Harvey. First wife, Marcia. 3 kids, messy divorce, rumors of infidelity on his part while she was pregnant. Second wife, Mary Shackelford. Also messy, also ended badly. Then suddenly, after he's famous, after Kings of Comedy, after the sitcom, after The Money is Right, he reconnects with Marjorie. The same Marjorie who disappeared on him because he wasn't financially ready. But funny how ready magically happened once he got a movie role. But here's where this all gets darker. Bernie died in 2008 from complications of pneumonia. He was only 50 years old. Now, there's this theory that pneumonia is just a convenient excuse when someone in Hollywood dies suddenly and under mysterious circumstances. Remember Diddy's ex, Kim Porter, died from pneumonia at age 47? And then a bunch of other people connected to Diddy either got seriously sick or died under strange circumstances. You had Al B. Sure, the father of Kim Porter's oldest son, Quincy. In 2022, he ended up in a medically induced coma for 2 months. It started with pneumonia symptoms and ended with multi-organ failure. And Al later openly admitted that he doesn't believe it was random. He said Kim warned him to watch his back. And he also said he doesn't believe she died of pneumonia.
Yes, many, many years ago, I posted some information that was, basically trying to save my life. And thank goodness to my ex, the wonderful Kim Porter, the late Kim Porter, who, kind of warned me all along the way to, just kind of watch your back, so on and so forth. And I didn't understand why.
Because of Diddy.
Basically.
Do you believe that she died of pneumonia?
Absolutely not.
But it's not just Kim Porter. There was Heavy D, Diddy's former artist. He died in 2011 from a pulmonary embolism. Also, Brittany Murphy, who dated Diddy's friend Ashton Kutcher. Both Brittany and her husband supposedly died of pneumonia within 5 months of each other. Then you had Jamie Foxx in 2023, suddenly hospitalized. Nobody knew what was happening for months. Rumors flying everywhere. He eventually said it was a medical emergency, but never gave full details. And then just recently, Freddie P went on a podcast and basically accused Diddy of playing what he called medical warfare.
Jamie Foxx, he got sick, almost died. I'll be sure he got sick, almost died. Kim, pneumonia, she got sick. So Heavy D, sick. Justin Bieber, half of his fucking face dropped off. He survived. He playing a medical-induced warfare game. He's playing a medical warfare game. And that's why when them crackers and them feds read that paper, they was like, it's so many doctors and physicians. You got to think, if I'm a billionaire and I pay for your scholarships, right? And I done got scholarships for so many. When I step to you and I need a favor, you going to be there. And now when you incriminate yourself, you forever guilty. You a part of the party. Now you got to come to the free calls. Because when I needed you to get that medicine or to slip that, he got stuff that he can slip in drinks and get you f***ed up for the rest of your life. Like, come on, man.
Now, is it just a coincidence that Steve Harvey was close to Diddy, and then Bernie dies of pneumonia, and then Steve's daughter, Lori, goes on to date Diddy? Was Lori repaying some favor that Steve owed Diddy? I'm just speculating here, not making any accusations. But you gotta admit it's weird that so many young people in Hollywood died of pneumonia. Bernie Mac didn't play that industry game. He didn't go to any freak-off parties. He stayed loyal to his high school sweetheart and kept his soul. And then he dies from pneumonia. Meanwhile, Steve played the game, married the light-skinned, weird-faced wife, and got the bag. So let me know how you feel about all this. Do you think Bernie Mac was taken out because he refused to play Hollywood's game? And what exactly do Steve and Marjorie know that they're not telling us? Drop your thoughts below and stay tuned for the next video.